Hey guys, this is Smithy. Welcome to my channel. If you guys are new here, welcome, and if you guys have already been subscribed to the channel, thank you so much for subscribing. Today's video is a very special video. I got my Glamlite palette back in the mail today and I ordered the Dirty Martini palette. I know, so unlike me, because if you guys know me and if you guys have been following me for a long time, you guys know how I run away from my greens. But this palette called out to my soul. I cannot believe that I bought a green palette, first of all. Second, I'm here with a drink. Now, fun fact, if you guys don't know me, I do not drink. So the names and theme of the palette did absolutely nothing to me, but the packaging and the shades inside. They're so gorgeous. So let me just show you the palette. I have close-ups of everything. So this is the Happy Hour collection from Glamlite, and this is the newest collection that they came out with. They came out with 4 palettes. The green one is Dirty Martini. They have a very neutral themed one, which is Chocolate Martini, which absolutely called out to me. Only because those shades were redundant in my collection, I was hesitant to pick it up. Then they have a wine palette, which was beautiful purples. Now I stayed away from that purple palette just because the matte seemed very similar. Good that I stayed away from that palette because I ordered another purple palette, which you will see in the future video, again from a brand that I've never tested out before. And finally, they have their Margarita palette, which is absolutely rainbow. And I was not in the market for a rainbow palette. So I picked out the Dirty Martini palette, and this is the first palette that they teased on Instagram. So let me show you. All of the palettes come in this beautiful bottle-like packaging. Although I'm not a person who drinks, the only thing that I drink is coffee. So this is coffee. I also did a little bit of chocolate syrup, but it all melted because the coffee was hot. So yeah, ignore that. But yes, the Dirty Martini palette comes in the green bottle. The Chocolate Martini comes in like a brown bottle. The Margarita palette comes in like a magenta pink kind of a bottle. And the wine palette comes in like a purple bottle. So this is how it is all packaged, and the palette sits beautifully inside it. Now let me show you the close-ups of all the shades inside the palette. This palette is absolutely stunning. So all these palettes individually are retailed at $35. So this Dirty Martini palette at the Glamlite bar, this signature cocktail inspired palette consists of 15 ultra dazzling shimmers and buttery mattes based on the iconic Dirty Martini. This palette is a martini and an olive lover's dream. Highly pigmented shades consist of olives and bronze tones. This creates a variety of sultry looks perfect for a night out. I would say you can definitely use this in the daytime as well as in the nighttime. I will give you swatches, everything of this palette. All the palettes does come with like a huge mirror too. But these tones, I mean what? These have beautiful green tones, very dirty olive tones. It has like beautiful mints in the collection, blues, some bronzes, some pinks, some olives, this deep blue teal shade. I mean, I cannot wait to play with this palette. I'm definitely going to do 2 looks with this palette today. One more on like an everyday subtle side and the other one more on a glam side. We'll see how that rolls because I don't know what I'm going to do today. But yes, let's move on to the shades of the palette. So the first shade in the palette is called Dirty Martini, and this is a beautiful sage green in a matte finish. Second, we have On the Rocks. It's more of a bluish green shimmer, and this is so dimensional to even mix it out with any of the rest of the shimmers in the palette too. Then we have Just a Splash, which is more of like a copper toned gold shade. And then we have the shade called Chilled, which is more of like that pinky bronze shade. Beautiful all over the lid and just paired out with like a brown shade. That's a look by itself. Then we have High Class shade, which is a beautiful olive shimmer. These shimmers are so beautiful. They're so smooth. They're so high dimensional. In the second row, we have a shade called Gin, which is like a very punchy emerald green shimmer. And then we have the shade called Classic, which is a beautiful mix of a minty green with like a sage blue. Doesn't even make sense, but it's such a beautiful green. I definitely want to use that today on my crease. Then we have the shade called Vodka Tini, and this is a beautiful green gold shade, and this has some amazing dimension, especially I cannot wait to test it out on my eyes. Then we have the shade called Green Olive, which again is like a very olive shade but with like a very punchy green to it, and this is more of that grassy green, even though it's a green palette, but these have so much variation of green that I do not need any other green palette in my collection. I am very happy that I have this in my collection. Let's move on to the last shade in that row, and the last shade is called Crisp. This is more of like a silver gray shade but with like a blue in it. Very beautiful for like a muted smoky eye. They will look stunning. Let's move on to the last row. We have the shade called Mix It Up, and this is such a beautiful deep teal blue shade. Absolutely stunning. To deepen out any blue looks or any green looks, it will be absolutely stunning. Then we have the shade called Garnish from the palette, and this is a matte grassy green shade. Then we have the shade called Extra Dirty, which is a deep dark brown shade but with like a dirty muted green mixed into it. And then we have the shade called Olive Lover, which is a beautiful olive green shade, more of like an olive sage green shade. Such a beautiful shade and such dimension. Cannot wait. I mean, I cannot. The last shade in the palette is called Dry Vermouth, and this is stunning. Absolutely stunning. This is such a muted deep army green shade. Love it. Absolutely love the shades that they chose for this palette. This can go in conjunction with any brown palette, any neutral palette in your collection too, and it can be such a wearable palette. I absolutely cannot wait to test this out on my eyes. So you guys saw the swatches on the screen, and how lovely does that look? I mean, who is excited to play with this? Certainly me. And me being not a green person, the excitement level is to another level. So I cannot even imagine if you are a green lover, you would just go bananas over this palette. Just based on the swatches, this looks stunning. So without further ado, let's dive right into the video. My brushes might be stained, but it is definitely clean because I did clean it up. What are we going to start with? Let's start with the shade called Classic from the palette. And this is that beautiful minty blue green shade. Very unlike me. I mean, all these shades are very unlike me. So I don't know how is it going to look, but we're going to test this baby out. Look at the pigmentation, and I just dipped like once and such a light amount, and look at this. Very pretty shade, I must say. Very, very pretty shade. Oh man. I just have concealer on my eyelid, and I just powdered it with my face powder, and that was L'Oreal Infallible Press Powder. It's blending out very beautifully, not patchy at all. Like, to be such like a milky shade, it's definitely blending out very, very nicely. Now I'm going to test out as many shades as I can today, and if you do want like 5 looks with this palette, definitely do let me know in the comment section below. Now let's move on to the shade, that deep blue shade, which is called Mix It Up. I actually should have done my eyes first, but nevertheless, we're going to take very little at a time. The classic shade did not have any fallout, but definitely this shade called Mix It Up, the deep dark shade, definitely is a powdery shade. So let's start building that up. And I know that this can go super, super deep. So I'm going to take very little at a time, especially knowing that this is like a deep, deep blue shade. Look at that. Oh, stunning. Just build it out slowly, especially with this shade, because it's a little more on the powdery side. I'm not getting any fallout on the face because I tapped off the excess, and I'm pressing it rather than like buffing it. And very light circular motion where I have to blend it with that shade called Classic. Do you guys even like green on me? Or am I just doing it for no reason? Okay, I'm going to take that same shade and just blend it out on my lower lash line. I personally feel like I look hideous in green. That's why I stay away from it. How pigmented that shade is, man. Crazy. So once we have that all like blended and deepened out, let's move on to a few shimmer shades because I cannot wait to play with it. I'm going to mix up a few shades, okay? So first I'm going to take the shade called On the Rocks from the palette. And this looks like a very creamy, putty kind of a shade in the palette. Like when I'm taking it out on the brush, it's like smooshing it inside the pan. So let's see how it applies on the lid. Oh my god. I feel like this is gonna look stunning with the fingers. So I'm gonna do that. It's picking out very beautifully on the fingers. So let's apply that on our eye. Oh my goodness! Can you even see that? That is stunning. Oh my god. Look at the pigmentation and look at that shine. Am I crazy or is it stunning? Oh my god, I cannot. Now I regret that I did not pick out that chocolate martini palette. Oh my god, why did I not? Look at the shine. Oh my god, that's stunning. Okay, I'm gonna mix it up with the shade called Chilled from the palette, and this is more of a rosy bronze shade. I'm gonna mix it up and see what's gonna happen, and that would make the I cannot get over the shine of these shimmers. Definitely the highlight is the shimmers. It's unreal. I'm gonna just blend these shades together. It mixes super nicely together with each other. Wow, I cannot. I'm gonna just blend out the edges with the same brush with no extra product, and I'm gonna take that same shade and put that in like my inner corner also, because I definitely don't want to lose that blue. It's just stunning, absolutely stunning. Let me take that brown in the palette and I'm gonna just buff it out underneath my lower lash line just to melt everything together. And it's something I want like a brown in my waterline. So I'm just gonna press it right there. Look at that brown, it's stunning. I'm actually gonna smoke out with that brown right in the lash line, like the upper lash line too. Nothing much, just a tiny little bit. Just to tie everything together. Stunning, I absolutely love it. I love it. Wow, okay. So I'm gonna just finish off my eyes with some liner and mascara and I'll get right back. So that's my final look. I love the way it came out. I mean, I cannot even, like I cannot stop staring at my eyes, especially because of that shimmer. It is so reflective. I cannot even say. I just finished off my eyes with the Essence liner and my Lash Paradise mascara. On my lips, by the way, I have L'Oreal lipstick in the shade Cutting Edge Cork. Now let's move on to the more wearable look on this side, because I just wanted to show you both the variation that you definitely can do more of like a wearable look also. So now let's move on to the shade called Dirty Martini from the palette, and this is more of the sage green shade. And I think I'm gonna do more of a halo eye on this eye. So I'm gonna keep it more on the round shape side on this eye. That's a beautiful shade. This shade actually reminds me of that ColourPop, the Child palette. We'll compare it at the end of the video and see that. Oh, actually that is another green palette that I have in my collection. I do not have more of like green palette, but I'll definitely share a few shades that are comparable to the shades in this palette. So that's stunning. I like that. Okay, now for the inner and the outer corner, let's take the shade called Dry Vermouth from the palette, this beautiful army green shade. And let's start off with the outer corner. Beautiful shade. This palette can definitely go pretty deep too, as you can see. I'm gonna also place that in my inner corners too. I'm also gonna take the same shade on my lower lash line, the dry warm mouth shade, just to tie everything together. And instead of that green, if you want like more of, I would say, a brown look, you can definitely take this brown too. It's pretty deep, but I definitely wanted to play with greens, especially because it's a green palette. Why would I not? And I definitely want to test out more and more shades out of this palette too. Let's do the shade called Olive Lover, more of the olive shade in the palette. And let's put that. Oh my god, what is this? How do they do shimmers like this? I mean, indie brands cannot be beat. When it comes to shimmers and duochromes, I mean, they just stand out among the rest. Look at that. That can be a look by itself. I absolutely love it. I'm just gonna blend the edges with that dry warm mouth shade. That's stunning. Like a deep green smoky eye. That is stunning. Okay, now let's take the shade called High Class from the palette, and this is more of like a true olive shade, but with like a gold tinge to it too. That would give like a lot more dimension on the eyes. As you can see, that's stunning. That is absolutely stunning. Okay, let's move on to the shade called Vodkatini from the palette, and this is like a very punchy green from the palette, and I'm going to put that in the inner corners. Wow, look at that shine. That's stunning. Absolutely stunning. I'm going to take a very tiny little bit, or should I not? I'm going to take a very tiny bit of the shade called Green Olive from the palette, just because I want to just see like a tiny little bit. I'm just going to blend it in the outer corner. Yeah. Just to melt all the shades together. That's stunning. I mean, that's very, very punchy. It's just that I am tapping off the excess so much that just because I don't want that parrot green on my eyes right now for this look especially. That's stunning. I'm gonna just wrap up this look with some liner and mascara, and I'll get right back. So I finished off my eyes with some liner and mascara. I'm just gonna take a tiny little bit. I actually did just apply a tiny little bit of Just a Splash right on the center, just to give more of like that coppery look right in the center too, just for like an added dimension. And that is stunning. I cannot even do anything with myself. Okay, now what is the shade that we did not try? I'm going to take the shade called Garnish from the palette, and this is more of that grassy green shade. I'm going to take that on my lower lash line and see how that performs. These shades are stunning, absolutely stunning. And that is it, guys. So that's my second look with the Glamlite Dirty Martini Palette. I love this look. I mean, this I can rock any day because I absolutely love like the olive tones on like a medium skin tone. This is unlike me. Like, I rarely go with like blue shades. You guys let me know which look did you like, the first look or the second look.
But I personally feel, how many shades did we try? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
I would say not bad at all. We tried 13 out of 15 shades on our eyes. The only shade that I did not try is the shade called Gin from the palette, this green. And this shade from the palette, which is Crisp. Rest everything has been tried on my eyes and the shades are unreal. The shimmers are like taking the breath away. I don't know how is it translating on the camera, but in person, you know, when in dance you absolutely love the performance, you throw the shoes on the stage and we say game over. I really want to do that for this palette. I want to drop all the brushes and say game over. That's how much I love this palette. I absolutely love the shades that were chosen in this palette. If this palette could have gone so wrong for me just because I'm not a green person. If it was more on these green side, I would not be interested in it. But I still feel if I just take this, this and this, it still can be super wearable. And because they have like put bronzy shades in the palette, this, you can take this to another level altogether. Again, as I said, just pair it out with like a neutral eyeshadow palette and you would absolutely love it. Cannot rave more about it. If you did like this video, if you do like greens on me, or even if you do not like greens on me, do like this video. Do subscribe to my channel before leaving and also ring the notification bell so that you are notified every time that I post next. I generally upload 3 videos every single week, every Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays at 9 AM Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.